Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching TopTenzNet, and we're about to cross over 1,000 videos made, so we thought we would do a video related to the number 1,000. We're doing the top 10 fictional characters who lived over 1,000 years. Number 10. Walter Jameson, The Twilight Zone. Walter Jameson is a character from the first season of the original Twilight Zone series. The episode, titled Long Live Walter Jameson, reveals that the history professor, Walter Jameson, knows so much about history because he has lived pretty much all of it. Jameson reveals to his prospective father-in-law that an alchemist granted him immortality over 2,000 years ago. Jameson proposes to Professor Kitteridge's daughter, Susanna. Susanna accepts, but Professor Kitteridge disapproves. It is not known how Jameson's relationship with Susanna would have worked out, as Jameson is killed at the end of the episode by an ex-wife. The former wife is very elderly and shoots Jameson with his own gun. Number 9. Methos from Highlander. In the Highlander television series, Methos is often referred to as being the oldest of the immortals. Methos has actually been around long enough to infiltrate a group set up specifically to look after immortals called the Watchers. According to the Highlander anthology book, An Evening at Joe's, Methos is over 5,000 years old. He also rode with 3 other immortals as a makeshift 4 horsemen. Methos was considered to be the death of the group. Methos told Duncan MacLeod that Methos had killed tens of thousands of people in his time. Number 8. Apocalypse from X-Men. Apocalypse emerged out of the shadows at the end of X Factor, number 5, from June 1986. Apocalypse would go on to become one of the greatest X-Men villains of all time, particularly in the Age of Apocalypse storyline. Over the years, Apocalypse was revealed to be a mutant named En-Sabah Nur. Originally abandoned by his parents for an unnatural appearance, Nur was rescued by a tribesman named Baal. Nur was raised over 5,000 years ago, living through coercing various civilizations to honor him as a god. Eventually, the renamed Apocalypse would come into conflict with the modern-day X-Men. Age of Apocalypse was an alternate future in which Professor X was killed by his son, Legion. In that future, Apocalypse took the opportunity to rule over the entire world. Number 7. Cosma from the fairy Oddparents. Cosmo, along with his wife Wanda, is assigned to young Timmy Turner as a fairy godparent in the animated series The Fairy Oddparents. Even though Cosmo is one of the youngest fairies in existence, he has still managed a considerable impact on human history. Cosmo is revealed throughout the course of the series to be the cause of such historical tragedies as the volcanic eruption in Pompeii and the destruction of Atlantis. This puts Cosmo firmly in the category of having lived over 1,000 years. However, in Cosmo's case, older is not necessarily wiser. Number 6. Akasha from The Queen of the Damned. Akasha first appears in 1988 in the 3rd novel of Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles titled Queen of the Damned. Akasha is revealed to be the Queen of Egypt before the land was even called Egypt. Akasha is awoken in present times and embarks upon a scheme to reveal her nature to the human world. Akasha's overall plan before she is stopped is to eliminate 90% of the world's men. In Akasha's nirvana, the women of Earth would worship her. Akasha is ultimately killed and cannibalized by another ancient vampire named Macaire, who is as old as Akasha and becomes the new Queen of the Damned. Number 5. Wowbagger, the Infinitely Prolonged from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. Bowerick Wowbagger, the Infinitely Prolonged, first appeared in Douglas Adams's 1982 novel Life, the Universe and Everything. Wowbagger is granted infinitely long life by an accident involving rubber bands and a particle accelerator. After centuries of boredom, Wowbagger dedicates his life to insulting every human being in the galaxy. Arthur Dent confronts Wowbagger during cavemen times on Earth. When they meet again in the future, Wowbagger comments to Dent, "I've done you before, haven't I?" Wowbagger desires to dole his insults out in alphabetical order. The order, as well as Wowbagger's existence, ends when he insults the great prophet Zorquan, at least in the radio series. Number 4. Tom Bombadil from the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Tom Bombadil is a mysterious and ancient character in J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy. Bombadil first appears in the Old Forest singing to Old Man Willow in order to put the ancient tree to sleep. This action saves the life of Merry, who is caught in the roots of Willow. Frodo spends 2 nights at the Bombadil home and has 2 different prophetic dreams during this time. In a controversial move to Lord of the Rings fans, Bombadil was left out of both the Ralph Bakshi animated films and Peter Jackson's live-action films. Number 3. Imhotep the Mummy from The Mummy. In the classic 1932 film by Universal Pictures, Boris Karloff plays the character of Imhotep, who is both cursed and mummified alive for attempting to resurrect his lover. Centuries later, an archaeological exhibition, as well as an errant reading of a scroll, brings Imhotep back to life. Imhotep escapes the archaeologists and his wrappings to continue his resurrection quest. Imhotep is finally destroyed while attempting to resurrect his lover once again. This is done by someone praying to the goddess Isis. Isis then destroys Imhotep and renders him to dust. Number 2. The Genie from Aladdin. Apparently 10,000 years in captivity will give you such a crick in the neck. In 1992, Robin Williams gave one of the most memorable film performances ever, animated or otherwise, as the Genie in Disney's Aladdin. Williams's Big Blue Genie is never given a proper name, but emerges from a lamp in the Cave of Wonders, ready to pursue life, as well as serve his young new master, Aladdin. The Genie knows the rug as well as some history. The Genie also seems to possess the power to travel through time as well, once released from the shackles of geniedom. Number 1. The 2,000-Year-Old Man. The 2,000-Year-Old Man was a series of comedy sketches starring Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks. Carl Reiner plays an interviewer interviewing Mel Brooks, who is a mythic 2,000-year-old man. He was born on October the 16th, but the year was never specified. Just assume he was born 2,000 years prior to whenever you sat down to watch the show. Among the revelations about the 2,000-year-old man, he dated Joan of Arc, Robin Hood stole from the rich but never gave a dime to the poor, and that the first known language was rock. Brooks also talks about knowing Bernie, who was the first man to figure out what women were and what to do with them. The 2,000-year-old man also had hundreds of wives and thousands of children. Sadly, none of the children ever write him a note or bother to visit. His biggest regret in life is not changing his Star of David factory into a cross factory. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also, over there on the right, a couple of other videos that you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.